Alright, if you watched my other video, you've seen that I took a 5-quart and a 6-quart KitchenAid apart. I'm going to put them back together because both of these units had a buzzed gear. So, a couple of things that I pointed out in the other video is on this 5-quart. That bushing that goes up inside there, it came loose and it was actually sitting on top of the shaft. So what I did is I put some retention compound. It's for cylinders and motors. I put a little bit of that in there and I tapped it down inside there. What you can do if you don't have that, you could take a prick punch. That's what a prick punch is, with a hammer. Once you push the bushing back up inside there, you can put 4 pricks around the housing. That way it holds it in place. So, got everything cleaned up. Everything looks good. One thing I do want to point out that this is a thrust bearing, and you need to make sure when you put it back together that the washers on either side are going in the right direction. They're supposed to be cupped towards the bearings. Okay. So everything else looks pretty good. The bushing here on the end is a little bit sloppy. A little bit. Oh, and make sure that you put this fabric washer in there, because that's what stops grease from falling down in there. I did notice that this is a little bit loose. I think it'll be okay once I put the case back on it, because that, like I said, that bushing that this shaft goes up in, it fell out and it was sitting on top of the gear. So I think it will be alright. If you plan on rebuilding one of these, and if you get a rebuild kit, it comes with the gasket, comes with the gear, and it comes with a new snap ring. If you just buy a gear and you had to take it apart and you destroy your gasket, it's a wise idea not to put it back together without the gasket, because you have clearance tolerances in these pockets, and when you put this together, the clearances for these shafts, these gaskets, are probably a clearance, so that way you get the proper distance between the case and the cover. So I would advise not putting it back together without having bushings or a gasket on it. So I'm just going to go through and I'm going to just put it together so you can watch what I do. I'm going to be putting some grease in with it, so that way I don't have to take it back apart. So let me get set up here. And after I got done cleaning the case, I just slid the cord back up inside and put the 3 bolts back in, put the screw in for the ground. Now I'm going to start loading this, and then I'll put the motor in, then I'll put the circuit board in, and so on and so forth. So I prefer to put grease on everything. And in these bushings as well, it's a wise idea to put grease on those, because if you don't you don't put grease on them, how is the grease going to get in there? That's one way you got to look at it. And for the attachment, you got your front gear here for your attachments. It's got a line cut in it That line is in there for a reason. That is so grease stays on that shaft when it's turning. And make sure you do the back side of the gear because it works as a thrust. And then that pops down inside there. See, it works as a thrust against the side of the case. And there's a bushing in there as well. So, put some grease on it. Slide it up through. I'm just going to slide this one out here for a second. Okay, so you have your new gear. Your new gear goes on. You have your drift. Your drift goes in the shaft. Now you have to make sure you line the drift up with the slots, because on the back side of this gear you can see that there's a slot for the pin and for the gear. If it's lined up, it'll drop right on and it locks right into place. I use brass. I'm just tapping the shaft down in there so it's not seated nice in there. Okay. New snap ring. Make sure the snap ring is in the groove. If it's not in the groove, it's going to fall out and you're going to have big problems. Always remember your white is your neutral. Tightening down on plastic. Remember, tight is tight, too tight to two pieces. I learned that the hard way. Okay, so everything is back in. So we rotate this. The motor's rotating. Gears are rotating. Everything is seated nice and well, nice and good. I'm going to put some grease in there. Don't forget, you got your gear in here for your attachments. And you have that bushing in there for the end of the shaft. Okay, so it's creating a, this is sealed so well, it's creating a little bit of a pressure on it. Don't be worried about it. Oop. Got my screw. Make sure you put all your screws in. Make sure they are all started. Then tighten them down. Remember, tight's tight. Two tights, two pieces. Alright, let me get a plug and I'll fire it up. Okay, one thing I did is I turned these bushings this way because I didn't like the way it was flopping around inside there like that. And I guess it's supposed to, but the case lines it up. So that gear is supposed to float. And that's probably the reason why that gear gets buzzed off so easily. It's because of just that reason. It floats. There we go. So there you are. It's all set, ready to go. And all you just got to do is just reverse your process there on your top. Put your top on. Put your top on. Just make sure you unplug it, just in case you hit the circuit board. Put your 4 bolts in. Remember, put all your bolts in before you go crazy. We'll tighten them down, because then you're going to be like, oh, I can't get them all in. Well, it's because it's not loose. And remember, tight is tight, two tights, two pieces. Just a snug. ring goes on. Come on. That's it. It's all set. So, something to remember when you put this gear in is your bushings are going to go this way, not this way. And I said, this is an older model. I see it's got brass bushings. So they're going to go that way, and the gear is actually going to float back and forth. But once you put the cover on, that holds it in place. So all that work to replace that. I hope it helps. I got a feeling because of that being floating like that, that probably has something to do with it. So, but that's, you can buy it in a kit. You can buy the snap ring pliers, the gasket, and the gear, or you can buy just the gear, you know, and with the snap ring too, or you can buy just the gear by itself. So everything is working the way it's supposed to. I hope that helps.